Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. Now in this video we're going to be talking about quantum entanglement, and what I'm going to be doing is talking about what quantum entanglement is and how we use that within sessions that you have here with me in Truly Holistic, but also a system I created which is called the broadcasting system, that we've added a new element to that system, which is a chart called Quantum Entanglement Elements. But we can also apply it to other things in our life other than elements, okay, or minerals. And also, we're going to talk about some of the tools that I either create or distribute here at Truly Holistic that allow everything that you put on that tool to connect using a process called quantum entanglement. Okay, so what started this whole process off of one, creating a video about it to discuss this, but also two, to create this element, pardon the pun, in regards to adding this new quantum entanglement page to the broadcasting system. Now the broadcasting system is a system we accompany with a broadcasting tool which is called the Sun Ring. This is the crystalline Sun Ring, and this is a product that's made by Crystalline Incorporated, so it's from a company that I do not make this tool, they make this. I'm a distributor of this particular product, and we're going to get into a little bit more about this tool and the benefit of it. But this tool is has no limitations to it. It can do so much, and that's why we created a system to incorporate how to use that tool. Because a lot of people that buy that tool, there's a few instructions on the back on the packet, but it's not in alignment with its infinite measure of how you can use it. So this broadcasting system empowers the person that has that tool to really take it to its limits, or as I say, there's no limit with that particular tool. So this is just getting into it even deeper. So let's get into it. So how this all started off was I had a client session with an individual in Australia, and he came to me after he'd got results from hair analysis, where he was testing all the minerals, if he was deficient in certain minerals, he has excess of certain minerals. So he came to the session with those findings, and he found that some minerals there was excessive amounts, for example arsenic, which obviously is not very good, and then there was some minerals that he was deficient in. So we want to look into it a little bit more, because when we look at minerals, okay, vitamins, at the core of them, and everything that we physically see as part of physical reality, is the core of them are frequency. It's frequencies, okay? Why magnesium does something different to calcium is because it's a expression of certain frequencies that are different to what calcium expresses of their frequencies of what calcium is. So again, we at this level, we just, as a human, we like slap labels on it, names and labels and diagnoses, when really at the core of it, it's just frequency. So, what we do here at Truly Holistic, because I'm a quantum ascendance healer, and we're talking about quantum entanglement here, which is to do with, also it's a quantum physics term, is looking at the core of what everything is, just going right to the core, right to the root of what everything is. Okay, so what was brought forth in this session is that we should drop the mentality of lack. Okay, the mentality lack is a human embodiment, and this is something we talk about quite a lot in sessions as well, is the difference between human embodiment and soul embodiment, and the fact that as a human, that is our conditioned version of ourself, while as the soul, that's our authentic version of self, because we came here as the soul first and we became this human secondly. Okay, so when we want to authentically look at things, aka looking at the quantum aspect of things, the root of everything, we really need to go into our authenticity, not our conditioned aspect of ourselves, which is the human, right? So, and this is a big part of the limitation of human embodiment is this mentality of lack. You know, we're always told that we're a little old human, and for the rest of our lives, we're going to be searching and looking for things that we lack, whether it's love or whether that's, you know, this mineral, this vitamin, this materialistic thing. You know, we're always lacking, always needing things. So this came up in the session in regards to this example of, you know, of minerals, and essentially said that, you know, we need to get out of looking at it at a quantitative way and get into looking at it at a qualitative way. And what that meant was, in quantitative is numbers, right? The amount. You know, as I say, of lack, you know, it's all about, oh, I need this, but how much do I need? How many, you know, milligrams, or how much do I need of it? And I think, you know, the client essentially came into that session thinking that way. And what we kind of got guided towards, and again, I was learning as we were going along with this as well, that we need to really get to the core of minerals, vitamins, elements. We need to get into the qualitative aspect of it, not the quantitative. We don't need to get so caught up with the numbers and the amount of something, but more about this qualitative aspect to the elements. And this is what it's connected to this quantum entanglement aspect, okay? So, so what is the qualitative perspective, this element? Now, this is connecting the element to its higher aspects of its consciousness, okay? Now, this is not going to be a huge departure in regards to clients that come to me where we are connecting them, the client, to their higher aspects of their consciousness. For example, as I mentioned before, we want to connect people to their authenticity, okay? So when we're connecting that person into their authenticity, which is, as I say, soul embodiment, not human, the soul is part of their consciousness, right? So we connect them, and which is the closest aspect of their consciousness, because that person is an infinite consciousness, not dialed into a group or collective infinite consciousness. No, they on their own right are an infinite consciousness. And that closest aspect of that consciousness is them as a soul, okay? So when we regularly do that with our clients, we've also got, I guess this is a remembrance and awakening to, okay, everything in this physical reality is here as a projection of consciousness. And therefore, everything here, including elements, want to be connected to the higher aspects of themselves, because, you know, at the core, consciousness always wants to keep evolving itself, okay? So this qualitative aspect is connecting an element, connecting water, connecting food, whatever you are going to take in, and connecting it to its full potential, which is a qualitative perspective of itself. Okay, so when we look at our higher aspects of ourselves, as I say, the soul is the closest aspect of that. Another term we can call is connecting into your higher selves, right? Why I use selves, not self, is because you are multidimensional, okay? So that means not just bound to one dimension, but many, right? Multi. And we could swap the word dimension out and we could say multi-reality, or we could swap that word out and we could say multi-universal, which we shorten that to multiverse, okay? And that means that a version of you or a variant of you exists in other realities, dimensions, universes, okay? And that's what we call higher selves, okay? Because there's many of them, not just one. Are they connected to this signature energy that binds them together? Yes, which I guess as a whole we could say a higher self. Now, we could use also the word ascendant, we could also use the word eternal, okay? And what connects them all together is this term that quantum physics use, quantum entanglement. Now, in quantum physics, they found that, okay, on this plane of reality, which is, you know, we have measurements such as time, we have measurements such as distance, okay? And really they're considered, from my perspective, limitations, okay? Time and distance. Now, when they were working on a particle, and let's say this other particle, matching particle, was a kilometer away. When they affected one particle, they noticed that the other particle, that was a kilometer away, was also expressing itself in the same way. So again, they coined it quantum entanglement, and they were thinking, how does that work when there's a distance between them? Now, what's happening is these changes are happening where there is no distance. Remember, distance is a measurement here in this reality. It's a limitation, but there will be realities outside of this one where that limitation is not present, right? Or the core of that energy, consciousness, is not bound to that limitation, okay? So it doesn't matter about distance. Distance, nothing, right? So you know, so we have a quantum entanglement connection to our variants that live in other realities, okay? And so does everything else that is bound to consciousness here, including elements, okay? We call that the same energy signature. It's like, I tell my clients that as a soul, there is no two souls alike in this reality, this universe, this dimension, okay? But there are others that share that there is a soul like you, but they exist in other realities, other dimensions, other universes. These are your higher selves, your variants that live in these realities. Okay? So when we connect all these different realities that are sharing the same energy signature, okay, they're all components of soul that were branched away from your source self. Your source self was kind of the roots of a tree, and when it went up the trunk, then it branched out with these branches all into these different realities where they were going to be an extension of its expression. Okay, and that's why I like to use the analogy of a tree. The expression of a tree is leaves growing, flowers opening and expressing themselves, right? But the energy of what allows them to do that is not found exactly right at the flower, right in the leaf, but it's also in the roots of that tree, right? So, so essentially, you know, your source energy is is you being complete, right? And you being able to connect to all the wisdom that exists in all these different realities that make up you, but also it's infinite energy, infinite consciousness. That's what that means, right? Consciousness or energy that has no limitation to it. And what's the most common complaint that we have as humans is a lack of energy. Why is it a lack of energy? Because it's a connection problem, right? So I really want to talk about this in depth in regards to our example. Then we're going to bring it to the elements. Okay, so now when we apply this to elements, for example, and I'll use this as an example, I made a cacao smoothie. Okay, and I know it's a big thing at the moment, this medicinal cacao or ceremonial cacao, right, where they're talking about divine or heirloom varieties of cacao, right, that's got the magical qualities in it, and it does. Cacao is a very, very magical substance, okay, plant, bean, the cacao bean that makes all chocolate, okay, and it's powdered down into a cacao powder. Now, a lot of people, are sourcing that heirloom, that raw cacao powder that costs a lot more than, let's say, conventional grocery or supermarket store cocoa powder. Now, why I bring this up is that the cacao powder that's in this drink is not organic, it's not heirloom, it's not ceremonial cacao, it's just cocoa powder or cacao powder, either way you want to call it. Now, but the cool thing about it is, I've got coconut milk in this, I've got banana in this, I've got cocoa powder, cacao powder. Now, when I use products that we sell here, that I make, I also distribute, that connects every element and every substance that's in the superfood to its quantum entanglement connections, right, to its higher selves, to all the way back to source self, then, I'm paying, not the top dollar for this type of cocoa cacao powder, but I can make it that, right? By connecting it to a lot better than any cacao powder you could ever buy. You are connecting it to its higher aspects of itself, its wisdom, okay? Because consciousness, right? Everything's consciousness. It's wisdom. It's infinite power, infinite energy. It's full potential. Because remember, cacao here has its medicinal qualities, but every universe will have different universal laws. So each type of cacao and all the different realities will have slightly different properties to them. And one thing that came forth was that when an element, when a substance, when a product was not connected to its quantum entanglement, its oneness, it's deemed incomplete. And a perfect example of this is in the medication world, right? Medication world is not a specific science, okay? They are just falling upon discoveries that, oh, we found that this medication lowered blood pressure. But it's also doing this to the body, and it's also doing that and doing that and doing that. But we don't really want those things. We just want to put it out in the market as being able to lower your blood pressure. But hey, we'll write all those things as side effects while you take this medication. Okay, so this is a perfect example of a substance that's very incomplete. Okay, and what I'm saying is, even with medication, if you connect, medication's still consciousness. If you connect the medication, supplement, element, mineral, vitamin, water, whatever, person, to its quantum entanglement connections of its variants that live in all these different realities, all the way back to source self, you are then you're allowing to bring in a complete version of it. So what does that mean in regards to medications? Neutralizing and lifting and removing adverse side effects of the medication you're taking. Plus, that medication you're taking is able to work at its full potential of why you're taking it. Okay? So it's wonderful stuff. Okay? Now, if you go through my YouTube channel, I've already done demonstration videos on using certain tools that we make, we distribute, and using them on food, using them on people, and we show that how the auric field is activated and expands. Okay, and we're going to talk a bit about that, right? So, now, why does the auric field expand? Now, what happens is, like for example, if I bring this drink back into it, right? If I was to just make the drink, okay, without using any of these products, and then measure its auric field would come at a certain distance, right? So many feet away. But when I'd come and use this product that was going to connect it to its higher aspects of itself, right? Its quantum entanglement connections to a complete oneness of itself, then I'm going to see that auric field of that drink expand and continue to expand out. Why is that? Because what we're doing is we're activating the DNA of every element, every substance that's within this drink to its higher potential. Okay? Now, what science calls DNA, we call soul consciousness. Now, the DNA and your soul, which is consciousness, is the same. There's no difference between the two. Because what we're doing is we're just connecting it to a higher aspect of its consciousness. And then what we see here is its DNA is activating, which means it's connecting to more of itself, its full potential. Okay? So there's no such thing as a difference between DNA and soul. It's the same thing. Okay? So the auric field is a measurement of how connected something is to itself. Okay, so the more myself, or a food substance or water connects to its higher aspects of itself, we will see here on this plane its auric field expand out. Okay, it's a direct measuring connection of how connected it is to its authenticity, that substance. Okay. Now, there's a science that's very bound or connected to what I'm talking about here, and it's called ONENESS, or ORME. Okay. Now, ORME stands for, which is ORME, orbitally rearranged monatomic elements. Okay. Now, this science is all about spin rates. Okay. So let's bring this tool in, right? So, which is called the Sun Ring. This is the product that we use as part of this broadcasting system, which we'll show in a minute. Now, this tool here, the Sun Ring, if I place this Sun Ring down and I place that drink on top of it, and it only takes seconds for this to happen, by the way, because consciousness is not bound to time, so things work very instantly. It's like you get a gut instinct or a feeling about something instantly. That's consciousness at work. Okay, so when we place that in, within seconds, we're connecting everything in here to a higher aspect of its consciousness, right? So if you want to use the terminology of DNA, we are activating DNA in that substance, right? Through quantum entanglement connection. Okay. Now, what that means when we start to connect that substance, right, into other dimensional planes is that the spin rates will change or increase, okay? And on a, monatomic level, okay? And what scientists found which is not well accepted in general science, but in this field, was that the substance was shifting in and out of dimensional states. And what they've come to find is they get a substance like this, then when we increase its spin rate, the weight of the substance will change. Okay, because we're increasing the spin rate. And that spin rate means that it's moving in and out of dimensions. And what are we doing by connecting it to its higher aspects of itself through quantum entanglement? Is we're connecting it to its multi-dimensional self, different dimensional aspects, right? Okay. Now, when we talk about spin rates, we're talking about vortex. And this is a really key aspect we talk about a lot here at Truly Holistic, is about the vortex. Vortex is the geometry of flow. And in session work, when we can try and get people to get their body in a state, because remember, every aspect of your body, whether it's the digestive system, the cardiovascular system, the nervous system, the urinary system, and so on, it relies on one thing in the blood, cardiovascular system, flow, to be well and vital. We get into trouble when there is a lack of flow, an obstruction, or a blockage in the body. Doesn't matter what system we're talking about. So when we're trying to get somebody's body well again and get the body into a state where it can heal itself, a key aspect of that is getting that person in the flow again of their life. Because them getting in the flow of a life is the state that they provide that predetermines how the body will function. It follows that. It adheres to that guideline, that rule. Okay, otherwise, if we're not doing that, then we're creating a state of congestion and a lack of flow, which is obstruction or blockage for the body. Okay? Now, the vortex is key. Now, in the body, okay, because the vortex is a gateway, what people would call a portal, wormhole, stargate, okay, because it's a passage to different dimensions, different realities, different universes. Now, that's place in the body, in the human body, is the heart. The heart is not a pump, it's a vortex. Okay, it's your portal, wormhole, stargate. Many people are looking for wormholes. You've got one within you. You are one. Okay, so that's the key of the vortex. So let's get into some more examples before we show you a bit more about the broadcasting system and the tools that we use to create this quantum entanglement connection, a higher aspect of everything that you're going to consume, but maybe just working on the body as well. Now, here's a great example because there's a lot about this. So we're going to talk about iron, right? The mineral iron, because there are a lot of people out there that are anemic. So who have lack iron, they lack storage of iron as well, which we call ferritin. And medicine's first approach to try and treat that is to again use a quantitative measure or quantitative change to try and heal that issue or treat that issue. And they don't get great results with that, right? And we're talking about a qualitative change here, so we'll get to that. So they kind of think, well, okay, that person needs more iron, of course. So they, get them nutritional advice and they say, you need to eat this. Let's say if you eat meat, well, you eat more red meat, that's high in iron. Okay, and let's say if somebody's a vegetarian or vegan, then they tell them, well, there's other places you can get iron and maybe add a iron supplement to it. So obviously they'll try that, and let's say a majority of those people that are still already anemic or having issues with iron are consuming enough iron. Iron's not hard to find, a dietary. It's very easy. Okay, so really it's not usually because you're not lacking the amount of iron that you're consuming. Sometimes maybe in a vegan community maybe, or vegetarian community maybe, but definitely not if you're eating animal products. And it's more about their ability to break it down and assimilate and get it into the blood, right? So now what's happening is that, and then obviously if that doesn't work, then they get put on a supplement or even an iron infusion or a blood infusion, or transfusion. Now what's happening here is they're trying to treat it through quantitative means, but it's a qualitative problem because the iron's incomplete. Okay, so instead of going down this route of eating more iron or supplementing more iron, the supplements aren't great, they don't absorb very well either, and sometimes they add vitamin C to increase their absorption, is just to connect the iron through a quantum entanglement connection to its multidimensional aspects of itself to make it more complete. And when you do that, you'll find that that iron will be a lot more easier to break down and assimilate. Okay, so this is a perfect example that we go wrong through doing it through quantitative way. Instead, we should be doing it this way with a qualitative means. Now, so that's a beautiful example in regards to that. Now let's look at some of the other products here, and look at the system that we use. So, as I mentioned before, the broadcasting system, and now some of these products, the broadcasting system and the tools I'm going to show you, we're gonna have a sale. Okay, so there's going to be discounts on all these products at my website. Okay, so let's start off with the broadcasting system, and I'm going to bring this down. I'm just going to change this around. Okay, so you can see the system. Okay, so let's bring this down like that. Okay. So let's just move these out of the way. Okay, so this is the broadcasting system. Okay, so you get in a lovely folder like this. And this is my version, which I've updated it, so you can obviously things written in pen, but they've all been updated, so you will get that all the newest edition as possible. And obviously, it's called broadcast. This is your home page. And obviously, we've got a photo of the sun ring in the middle. So we've got charts. We've got the minerals. We've got a new chart here, which shows this is what this video is about. The element quantum entanglement chart. Essential oils chart. Superfoods. Teaches you how to program a crystal using crystal energies. Supplements. Finding out what organ of your body needs cleansing. And therefore then you come back here to find out, okay, what herb and what superfood or what mineral am I going to need to then cleanse that particular organ? Herbs, medicinal herbs or herbs. Digestive enzymes. Let's say you have a problem with your digestion or breaking food down. Well, you'd find out what digestive enzymes would be beneficial for you in breaking that food down. Hormones is a new chart with placed within the system, and also vitamins. Okay, so the great thing about this system is the fact that okay, if you have the physical things, that's great. But one thing about, you know, us going into ascension, right, is this aspect of, and I call it difference of moving out of duality into neutrality. Now, duality has been what's limited us with being the human, being guided with the mind, the limitations of what that brings us. It's like trying to pack a expanded consciousness in a cage. Okay, and we've been caged for such a long time. Now, when we let ourselves free and we completely embody ourselves as a soul, not as a human, we allow our consciousness, our soul, to guide our process. We go into what we call neutrality, which is not about limitation of self, it's about expansive, it's about expansion, and coming back into our authenticity, okay? And part of that is realizing that we're not just here to observe or participate in reality, we are creators of our own reality. And the biggest part of creating our reality is creating whatever we need. We no longer live in a state or an environment or a plane where it's all about the mentality of lack. We do not lack anymore. It's just about connecting into it and making whatever we require. So this system is all about now not relying on the physical things. It's about using intention, where we voice that intention or use intention notes coupled up with a broadcasting device, okay, to then create these things. Okay, we can intend them into the body, we can intend them into our water, we can intend them into our food or our smoothie or whatever we want to do. Okay, this is the beauty of this. Now, why we use the sun ring is because the sun is symbolic for soul. The Latin word for sun is S-O-L, pronounced like S-O-U-L, soul. Okay, as part of the human looking through duality eyes too. Okay, and remember, our visible sight is giving us less than 1% representation of everything we see. It's a limited aspect of our human embodiment, our human pathway. Is that everything we see out there, including the sun, we are seeing a 1% representation of what it really is. So what is the sun really? Okay, the sun is a representation of your soul. Okay, because if I go within you and I say, hey, I want you to connect into your full potential, your main light source, your main energy source. We're referencing the soul, but as a human looking externally, we're also referencing the sun. The sun's mainly plasma. The soul is plasma. Okay, so that's why we use this tool, because we are bringing forth the most potent, authentic aspect of you, and that's the soul, by using this tool. But again, this is just training wheels to get you eventually where you will not need this tool. You will not need these training wheels, because you will walk into your full potential as you, as an authentic self, a creator of reality. So let's get a little bit more specific into the chart, and I'm going to quickly show you the quantum entanglement chart, because as this is the video about this. So let's bring this back down here. Okay, so we've got all the charts of all the different elements, right, that make up the periodic table of the elements, okay? And we've got 4 of those charts with all the elements in them, okay? But then we go into what we call the element quantum entanglement chart, okay? Now, what you'll see here is, keyword here is generation, okay? And now, there's generation 3, which is the reality that you're in, okay? That's this plane or dimension or universe. There's generation 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then there's also an option to say all of them. Okay, these are your higher selves. Now, generation means reality, universe, dimension, either word you want to use. So this chart allows you to kind of, let's say you find out an element that you need. You can come to this chart and find out, okay, is it just its version of itself that exists in this reality? Or do we need to bind or connect it to its multidimensional aspect of itself? So this is where you can come to do that, okay? So I've got some information in here that just explains it a little bit more. Okay, and if you're somebody that, you know, wants to be, you know, fully doing the work itself, right, the diagnostic stuff, the dowsing and so on, and being pretty creative about it, then you can do it this way. But if you know, want to do it a lot simpler, okay, and just use a tool on a product, then we've got also tools that you can use to provide this quantum entanglement connection as well. Now, the sun ring is definitely one of them, okay? Let's say you want to connect it to a little bit higher than what the sun ring does. Then, and we're going to use another crystal incorporated tool, that's when you bring in the divinity ring, okay? Now, it's called the divinity ring. Now, your divinity means consciousness, okay? Now, the origin or the root of religion was consciousness before it got branched into all these different religions, which was part of the duality process, right? Now, so divinity and what religion stands for originally was consciousness. Okay, so this connects whatever you place on, whether it's a glass of water or your smoothie or food or placing on a part of your body. It's about connecting it to its divine aspects of itself, which means it's higher aspects of it, it's higher selves, it's variants that live in all these different realities. So these two tools are broadcasters or charges of energy, but this one is more bound to the soul, which is our closest aspect of our consciousness, and this one's more about connecting to those higher elements of ourselves, okay, those multi-dimensional aspects. So this tool is great for that. We also have another tool which we call the Ascendance Ring. Now, I don't have one here to show you, but this is a tool that is exactly the same design as the Divinity Ring, but we take a measure that was brought through to me, which we call the Ascension Cubit, which connects a little bit higher than the Divinity Ring. Now, the Divinity Ring connects to all those branches, right? Those different variants of cells, which in that quantum entanglement element chart would call a generation. But the Ascendance Ring takes a little bit further and it connects all the way back to source. So it does all the same things that this ring does, it just takes it one more step further. Now, this is a wonderful tool in its own right. So we have the Divinity Ring, but we also have the Ascendance Ring. And the Ascendance Ring is made out of copper. It's a little bit bigger than this one. You'll see that on my products page on my website. Now, another way you can connect whatever your place, and as I say, that could be supplement, that could be your medication, that could be your food, that could be your water, you know, it could be a number of things, okay? And, you know, when I talk about water in general, right, and the tools that we provide for water to restructure and connect it to its higher consciousness, we are doing the same things. We're connecting it to its quantum entanglement connection that enables to bring forth the full completion of what water really is, okay? Now, what you can also do is the tensor rings that we provide and we make here. It's really holistic. Now, these three rings, the activation cubit, which is the biggest ring, is kind of more that kind of place of where the sun ring is. The divinity ring is more kind of in tune with the gateway cubit, which is the smallest ring. And then the ascension cubit ring, which we've got there, connects you all the way back to source. So to get, you know, the full completion of the element, the mineral, the vitamin, the supplement, the food, whatever you're placing in it, then you can use the three rings, the trio set, to do that as well, okay? And again, you can do that without dowsing, right? You can just get the three rings, place all your supplements, all your medications in it whatsoever, or your water or your food, and they will then directly connect those consciousness, because remember, the consciousness at the core, to every aspect, every multidimensional aspect of it, which is done through a connection which quantum physics calls quantum entanglement, okay? So you can use the trio set for the rings, you can use the Ascendance Ring, which is a different, looks very similar to this. You can use the Divinity Ring, And obviously with the broadcasting system, you can be a little bit more specific about where you can connect into your guide, your intuition, your consciousness will tell you directly what generation, what higher self, maybe all of them, that you need to bring through, and you can be more specific about it. And that is obviously with the Sun Ring, and you get the broadcasting system with it. So for all the products that I've talked about in this video, including the broadcasting system, the Sun Ring, the Divinity Ring, the Ascendance Ring, the Tree of the Tensor Rings, will all be on special. Okay, there'll be a discount with those particular tools in regards to when this video comes out, because I really want to get this out for people, because this is really interesting stuff. This is just taking things to a completely new level. And really this video is more about discussing this quantum entanglement connection so that people understand it more. As I say, we've had these products for a wee while now, so for people using them, you have been establishing that, but for you to have the ins and outs, the wisdom, the know-how to why they're working, and this quantum entanglement connection and what that actually truly brings is, you know, what I tell my clients in sessions. A lot of the times, clearing is what helps, but the knowing and the understanding of why things come up and why we use them, and therefore you can incorporate that into your own life, that is healing in itself as well, probably more important. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please, if you're new to my channel, please like this video, share the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Until next time, catch you later.